I grew up in a very nice home. I had loving parents, just a typical American childhood. I knew things were not good in North Korea, but I don't think I ever realized about starvation and stuff like that. You were sexually assaulted at the border multiple times, how horrific your journey was.
As you mentioned, that sexually assaulted by the guards and in the train. The train stops many times, like more than 10 times.
I've had some tough times here and there. I lost a son to cancer when he was 21.
I didn't lose my grandparents, but I realized that I cannot see them again. I cannot share with them. Freedom isn't free. I mean, you have a freedom doesn't mean that you are free for everything. You have to earn it. You have to fight for it. Hi, I am Eun-hee Park, a North Korean defector and the author of The Courage to Die. In this series, I invite readers of my book and supporters of North Korean human rights into conversations that go deeper than politics or headlines about North Korea. We talk about freedom not as an abstract idea, but as something lived, lost, and protected. As an author, I want to know, I want to understand what readers truly take away from my story. Through honest reflection, I hope to raise awareness about North Korean human rights. And most importantly, I want to encourage each of us to value and protect the freedom we often take for granted. Thank you so much for your openness, Michael. Thank you for accepting my request to be as an interviewee. My first question, Michael, is what's your story?
I grew up in a very nice home. I had loving parents, brothers I used to fight with all the time, but that was part of growing up. If you're in the U.S., if you know what I say, which meant that was a television show, that was a perfect, everybody was friendly and it was very prominent. Hiking, swimming, doing canoeing, playing baseball, just a typical American childhood of that time.
Typical American child, maybe who didn't have much experience of suffering as like North Koreans. When and why did you become interested in North Korea?
Actually, it was just because I've been familiar with some of the things that went on in Asia over the years, in China, in Cambodia, and I kind of knew about Korea, but then I caught you on Instagram, and I was just flipping through, and I went, oh, okay, I don't know anything about this. Because I don't. I said, I met South Koreans, but never anybody from North Korea. And as you know, South Koreans don't talk a lot about North Korea, so they never said anything. So that's why I started, and then I started reading it. And then when I saw, you could use some help, expenses and stuff, I said, well, I've done well in life. I could probably help somebody out.
Yes, that's why you became my Patreon member and then support monthly. I really, really appreciate. I feel like when I meet people who are interested in North Korea, who are actually doing something for North Korean issues, I felt so grateful. Like I want to do everything for them as well. You said you found me on Instagram. What kind of things you didn't know?
What kind of things? I knew things were not good in North Korea. But I don't think I ever realized about starvation and stuff like that. I mean, that's just so out of what I've experienced or anybody I know experienced. I mean, we've been very fortunate in the U.S. not to have those kind of things. So that's probably the shocking how hard you had, or all Korean children, I'm sure, had, or most had growing up at that time. I mean, if I wanted a Coca-Cola, I just hit my dad give me 20 cents, I go buy a Coke. It was like that. I mean, if I wanted to go to a movie, I had to walk sometimes. I would walk where the movie house was and go see a movie. I got on my bike or just something. So, it's just such a troubling difference.
Yeah, it's everyone knows it's bad, but not many people know how bad it is to live in North Korea. And as you mentioned about the Coca-Cola, I felt like you read my book with all the details. I mentioned the Coca-Cola, right? So what was the most memorable part of my book, The Courage to Die?
Probably when you actually defected. I mean, that was horrifying. It really was. I mean, I don't want to bring up too many bad memories for you, but, he was sexually assaulted at the border, multiple times. So that's probably that part, was just how horrific your journey was to Thailand.
I was 21 when I escaped. But as you read my story, there is no freedom of movement in North Korea. So means I was born in the Wonsan, which is coastal city on the east coast of North Korea, means that I had to travel to go to north part of North Korea, which is nearby China. That was the most difficult time because I had to, as you mentioned, that sexually assaulted by the guards and in the train. And to went to northern part of North Korea, if you take maybe flight to New York, maybe it's just 2 hours. It's just right away you can land it in other city. But in North Korea, due to lack of electricity, the train stopped many times, like more than 10 times. And then it took me 72 hours, 3 days to go to the part of North Korea, which is nearby China.
Yeah, and I know it must have been cold too.
Yeah,
the whole time.
back then it was no heater system installed in the train. That back then was in September, and it was cold, and sometimes it's just like asleep in a crumbled position. It was a horrible experience. Not only that, you read my entire story, so I hope a lot of people recognize how hard it is to escape from North Korea. My next question, before reading The Courage to Die, what was your perception of North Korea, and how did my book change your views?
I didn't know enough to have a big perception. I just knew you had a hereditary dictatorship running the country, and it was like in the U.S. it comes across as cartoonish. These guys going to these crazy rallies, and where they bring all the people in, and everybody comes and bows down to him or his father, who I remember, and like everything seems to be about glorifying them, and nothing really about helping people. I mean, it's just I'm always kind of amazed nobody's shot him yet, to be honest. I mean, just somebody gone crazy because they lost their family, but he probably has too many guards and around him and stuff for that kind of happen.
So you didn't have much the knowledge. So what is the one thing you gained from my book then?
Appreciate what people have to experience is outside of my experience. I had to kind of, enter another world in some life. And again, as I said, I had a pretty nice life. I've never married anything like that. I've had some tough times here and there. Like I lost a son to cancer when he was 21. Probably besides that, I've kind of lived I've been kind of lazy maybe sometimes. That's why I kind of endeavor now through reading your book and stuff. I help in charities. I help raise money for kids that don't, parents are either poor or not very good parents, and I help with develop parks and stuff like that. So I try to do more of that than I did. I'm retired. I don't have anything else I have to do.
Yeah, but must be difficult to lose your son. Like I know how hard it is to overcome from that difficulty, because you lost your son, and I didn't lose my grandparents, but somehow forcibly I had to leave them. And when I landed in South Korea with myself, I was 21, and I realized that I cannot see them. I cannot see them again. And even I have abundant food, I cannot share with them. So I can understand you. When you have the happiness, you always think about your son. I do. If I have a lot of stuff which is valuable, and I do think about my grandparents who raised me. I wish I could share this with them. That's all my thought. So it's not you say like I had a pretty good life. No, even if in free society there are a lot of problems, there are a lot of struggles people face, especially losing yourself, losing your children is the most difficult part. So maybe because of that experience, or because that tragedy you had to face, maybe went through, you have empathy to understand me. You have empathy towards North Korean people and minority people who need help. That's my understanding from your story.
Yes, I'd say that's good.
Yeah. I always think like I wish I could share this, but I cannot. My next question is, you've been through different eras. So you've witnessed like how societies can change over time. So do you believe freedom is something stable or something that must consistently be protected?
Well, I'd say definitely it's got to be protected because either for good or bad reasons, people view freedom as a constraint upon their ability to become rich or get powerful, or just because they really get into power and they'd like to put people down and stuff. It doesn't have to be just money. Just a lot of people think about. It can be just political power. That's why there's a lot of arguments and stuff about that right now in this country, uh, about what freedom really is, and over freedom of speech and stuff like that. And I know people that don't even talk to one another anymore because they're so on the other one side or the other. You may have heard about that. People get really upset. And one thing we used to take for granted in the U.S. was freedom of speech. Now it's like, well, some people think, well, it's not all that great. We don't really need it. And I'm bedrock about freedom of speech. That was from my, parents' generation to me was like that. And I've tried to, in my own way, contribute to that.
So what's your definition of a freedom, Michael?
Oh, I can't remember. Oh, geez, I had a little country saying I was going to say is freedom starts when you get too close to me. In other words, freedom means freedom from control, from coercion, from that's what freedom means to me. That's where we have the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and everything that's talked about in our Bill of Rights. We argue all the time. Most people accept it, understand how important it is. That the government should stay out, except in certain circumstances, the government should stay out of your business. People should be treated as individuals and not as like group identity.
I cannot agree more. So small government and then just let people play their role individually. That's the freedom. But for me, it's a freedom. What I've learned in South Korea, freedom isn't free. I mean, you have a freedom doesn't mean that you are free for everything. You have to earn it. You have to fight for it. That's what I've learned after escaping. So from your life experience, Michael, what do you think younger generations misunderstand about freedom?
It's been taken for granted too much. It's like if you grow up wealthy, you don't appreciate, the material things in life or the convenience you have. And the United States has been a wealthy country or European countries have been wealthy for 3, 4, 5 generations, and people just assume it's going to come. I have friends I know that are still working, and they complain about the kids don't work anymore. They think they should just, get it. They get all upset when they don't get raises or they don't get jobs, and I think it's true with freedom too. I mean, they don't have to worry, about saying anything in public that's going to get the government there hauling them off to a prison camp the next day. It just doesn't happen. It's too easy to take things for granted. The freedoms people have. It could be here, or it could be France, or it could be South Korea. Same thing.
So how can we protect the freedom we have?
If you're so inclined, you can always get involved in politics in the U.S. I'm a little bit involved, not too much. Mainly local politics. I don't, I'm not worried about who senator is, but who's the local mayor. I give money to people. You have to be involved in it. It's called civic involvement. My dad was great at that. I never could understand how he could run everything. He was all kinds of committees and stuff. He was a pretty remarkable person for that. In fact, I remember even when I used to go back to visit my parents back in Oklahoma, I'd walk into a store, buy something, show my credit card, and they'd say, "Are you Bill Moran's son?" Everybody knew him because of all the stuff. He was a school board, that run the schools. He was head of that for a while. He was in the planning for the city. He was involved in all kinds of charities. And before he died, he even ran a volunteer fire department until my mother put her foot down and said, said, Bill, you're too old to be walking into fires anymore. You need to stop it. He was like almost 70 when she said, don't do that anymore. So I don't know if that's in.
Wow, what a remarkable dad. I have a story to tell you about my grandma as well. As you read my story, I mean we had a lot of like love and hate relationship between us, but I respected her a lot. She is my hero and she is my role model of my life. As you describe about your dad, how involved he is in the civic society. But my grandma was a pedestrian and always helped the neighbors who are poor, even if we didn't have enough food. You know, if someone came to my house, asked like the food, she just grabbed all the leftovers and then she divided the rice we had and gave to them. I didn't understand why. Like I wanted to have more food because I'm hungry. And why don't you leave it for me? And she said, you have to help people. I didn't understand. I was too young, but now I do think about her a lot. How impactful it is on my life.
There's a, it's like it brings a different world to the forefront for consideration. There's a famous Russian author called Alexander Solzhenitsyn who wrote a thing about the Gulag Archipelago, which is a book about him in prison camps in Siberia. And before he wrote that book, people didn't really believe they existed, or a lot of people said, "Oh, you're making this thing up." When that book came out in the '80s, it was shocking because it was so well done. People could not deny it. And that means, and I don't mean the U.S., I mean that's all over the world. And it got a Nobel Prize for it. I don't know if you've heard of Nobel Prizes, but he got a Nobel Prize for literature for that book. It's a very difficult book. It's a hard read. And that's why I say you could shine a light and to either praise or expose a problem. So if that's what I was thinking about.
Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and life lessons about the freedom and about your life. And I mean, like most of the things, what I'm so grateful that you read my story and you just right away act to support North Korean people. Thank you so much for being there when I need, and I really, really appreciate it. I thank you for your existence, Michael.
Well, I'm really glad I could help some.